What's up, Rotogrinders? Grinders Live here, flagship show. Dean 7904. I'm hosting here. You guys may know that name around the industry. See it. Hopefully, we'll see it. Maybe at least a min cash. Maybe possibly taking down some tournaments tonight. We'll see. 7-game NBA slate. We're back. It's been a long week for sure. Do want to welcome Andre into the show. Andre was saying this is the time we're going to start taking down some tournaments. This is it, man. It starts tonight, does it not?
Oh yeah, it should. It's been a week. I've been honestly acting like a fiend in these streets, wanting to play some other NBA. I'm glad it's back. And Dean, we're not min cash today. We're taking down tournaments, all of us.
I'm about that min cash life. I'm not happy. I'm not proud of it, but I've min cashed way more than I should be bragging about. Did you dabble at all in the hockey streets or the golf streets or MMA and that stuff for you?
No, I try to do some sports. Honestly, I've been doing a lot more sports betting in general, but I definitely tried my luck with college basketball sports betting and NHL. Did okay. Not as successful as I thought it would be, but it is what it is.
Could also bring in Tim. I didn't ask you to pronounce your last name. Buell? Is it Buell? Am I correct?
It is Buell. Yep, that's
all
right.
Tim. Yeah, Tim Buell, Tasteful Tides. You see him all over the site. Not on a lot of the video stuff, but your debut on Grinderslive. Tell the people what you do. Of course, premium members see your name all the time, but if for those that are not familiar, well, what do you do here at Rotogrinders? And
I do some of the expert survey stuff, some of the consensus value rankings. I also do an article on scoresandodds.com every Tuesday and Thursday where I go over my favorite NHL and NBA bets.
I was gonna say, how was your week off? But I guess I heard you yesterday on the NHL show. I assume you were playing hockey, and I imagine you enjoyed all the fish playing and joining you for a week or so.
I didn't do so well yesterday, but the previous 2 days I did cash pretty well.
There you go. Yeah, I just I dabbled, and I'm very much of a novice, but I'm a Panther fan, so just stack up the Panthers. They seem like a lot of fun, and they score a lot of goals. So that worked for me one night, and yesterday, who was it? Tampa and Colorado. I got a couple empty net goals. Those have got to be super tilting, and they can save you as well. When you lose to the empty netter.
It was
how do you predict those?
Tampa and Edmonton yesterday. You got a Nikita Kucherov empty netter,
yes.
I bet.
Yep. Yes, I got them both. I think I got both empty netters, and we 3x or 4x or something like that. We didn't take anything down, but it was fun. I enjoyed my time playing some hockey. It's good times. Also, the people, if they're not aware, the premium members are aware, and if you want to become a premium member, this is a very good time to do so. And why is that? For 24 hours, there's going to be a sale, 24-hour combo discount. For 24 hours only, you can take advantage of a massive discount here at Rotogrinders Premium. You get 2 months of Rotogrinders Premium for 50% off. What does that entail? Basketball. That's NBA, college basketball, PGA, MMA, NHL, any sport you can think of, with the exception of NASCAR. NASCAR is a la carte. But go ahead, 24-hour combo discount right now, 50% off all the sports. And you get, of course, access to the lineup HQ and the optimizer and, tools you'll see on the screen as well, the videos, the articles, Crunch Time, which, of course, follows us on rotogrinders.com. You can have at it for 50% off. So now's a good time to pounce for sure. Tim, are you excited about tonight's slate? It's different because I feel like we're not waiting for information.
Right, there's not a lot of news.
Nobody's questionable. We have John Collins, who's doubtful. I think nobody's questionable. Nobody's playing in the back end of a back-to-back. Nobody's playing in the front of a back-to-back. The biggest question mark is who's going to start for point guard for Cleveland. That's basically. Right. Of course, it's the association and things will change, but that's kind of what I see right now. We're going to break it down game by game in a second, obviously, but. Yeah, your thoughts on that and kind of overarching thoughts as far as the slate. We know Chris Paul is out too, which, that was something we were aware of a while, but that's kind of a big deal as well.
Yeah, there's definitely some certain games that I want to target. And then there's a few games, even on the small slate, that I think as of right now are full fades. Yeah,
it's interesting kind of going through it. And I think just kind of sort of clear and obvious stuff. And of course, basketball things can happen if you're running 150. Let me ask you, what do you normally play? Are you a cash game guy? Are you a tournament guy? You run 150? You play, 2 or 3 main lineups? What's your general thought process? What's your general approach?
I usually play single entry tournaments. I usually play Sometimes I play double ups, but usually I just focus on single entries, and I usually just play one lineup per night.
What is I'm curious now, like what's your general approach? Because we have the we have the ownership stuff and all that, and the ownership, I'm sure you've noticed, is like it just condenses like crazy.
Yeah.
If somebody's 50% owned in a large field, they're like 75, 80, 90% owned in a single entry. Do you have like a general approach to making single entry lineups?
I usually eat cheap chalk, which is but not usually at the center position. That's usually a position that I try to pay up at because the opportunity cost is so great. Usually, I mean, obviously there are slates where that can be different, but that's a general rule of mine. I also, I try to take low usage players that are chalky, and I try to fade them, even if they're projected well.
Yeah, that's a good general thought process. I like that. It's interesting you say like as far as centers and chalk, and we have a very expensive center who's going to be super chalky tonight, just kind of the way the slate goes down with Jokic. And we'll talk about that matchup soon enough as well. But that matchup is awesome there against Sacramento. And especially on FanDuel, it's just hard to get away from it. You have the salary, it's 11.4K, 12 and a hook on DK. But again, you're going to have the salary. There's some cheapies we'll talk about. Andre, what's the plan tonight? What are we rolling? We're running out to like 40 lineups, 10 lineups, 150. What are we going with?
Obviously, well, I'm at a meeting today. Getting a little closer on both sides tonight. In some different tournaments and trying to, hopefully get a seat in either DK or FanDuel tonight. Let's see if that comes through. But to me, I think the way to take down the slate is going to be about playing game stacking, probably the right game, because there's a lot of high totals. One in particular that stands out really high, and then finding the good low owned top expensive play of the night, I think is going to be very important. And I'll probably give a couple good takes and some of my and one player that I like that I think should be getting a lot more ownership than what he is today.
Do want to mention about playing both sites. You're playing on FanDuel tonight. The single entry series continues, sponsored by Rotogrinders. It's the $10 dime. You can find it in the FanDuel lobby now. Just added value. Play as many times as you want. They take your top. Well, you can only enter one time, obviously, but your top 4 of the 6 potential options. If you have the highest score amongst everybody that played that, you jump into another contest, which I think is a $30,000 as far as its prize pool. Just added value. If you're playing on FanDuel, that's where your first $10 should go tonight. Andre, before we dive in and break it down game by game, do you have any general like overarching thoughts or your general approach to this slate? We're looking at, if I kind of sort by RG value, if I use the lineup HQ tool, point per dollar. The names are funky, man. Rajon Rondo is right as of right now. We don't know if he's starting or not. We'll talk about that soon enough. Wofford for Portland, the absence of Nurkic there is going to be out for a while. Aaron Holiday, James Johnson, Gary Payton expected to start. These are our best point per dollar plays. Not exactly screaming values, but values, sure. Are we excited about this, Chalk?
Some of it you can get excited about. The one that scares me the most, kind of, when I've been looking all day, if you look at DK specifics, and I think you pointed that out more. James Johnson kind of scares me, along with Watford. We know he has to play, but Billups has been weird with running his rotations. And I know they also signed Drew Eubanks to I think a 10-day contract. So that's kind of worrying me a little bit. I do think Aaron Holiday is another good value, but I'm interested in seeing what he's going to do. I have an interesting take on that too. I like him, but I think I might be a little bit lower than the field on him.
Hey, Tim, that's one of those guys, like you talked about, like fading low usage chalk plays. I feel like that's Aaron Holiday, is it not?
Yeah.
That's kind of like what you're alluding to before.
That's exactly right, Dean. That's the exact type of player that I don't want to play in my single build tonight. In my opinion, I really think that Devin Booker is going to be the ball dominant guard.
I agree.
And let's say Aaron Holiday gets 22 DK or something like that. I don't think that's really necessarily going to bury you. So if he's going to be really this high owned, he's not somebody that I'm very much interested in.
What is an Aaron Holiday ceiling game? Like, what is that? like 30 points, 32.
35.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to see yourself getting buried by it. He probably is fine, like doesn't crush your lineup. Like, but he probably doesn't really factor into like winning or losing a ton, I guess is the thought process.
If you're looking to be at the very top of a large field GPP, I really don't think Aaron Holiday is going to be the type of player that you want.
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable take. We'll talk about that soon enough. First game, only one game at 7:00. You can wait another half hour for news, but there may not be news. We don't know about as far as the Cleveland starting lineup because, they're without their two biggest ball handlers. No Gafford, no LeVert. They're in Detroit tonight. Not a very appealing number. 208.5 is the total. Detroit is terrible, so Cleveland is still favored here. They're by 6. Andre, you were talking about this pre-show. We currently we're projecting Goodwin to be the starter, but we're also projecting more minutes for Rajon Rondo. I'm not sure if that's a hedge or if that's something we're going to correct. Of course, when the starting lineup comes out, we'll adjust accordingly. But who do you think starts for Cleveland, and who's the ball handler you want for Cleveland?
Honestly, I honestly really don't know who starts. But I would just follow the trend that they've been doing. I think Goodwin did start one game, Seti started another game, and I think Rondo started one game. So I really don't know who's going to start, honestly. But I just know at the end of the day, Rondo's going to get the most minutes as far as with the point guard play. So I'm more inclined just to play a lot more Rondo. But if we get a starter with Goodwin in it, that gives you more confidence to play him because when I think if you go on our site and you look at the way Andy Means wrote up this morning on core plays, he broke it down exactly. I think one game Goodwin did not play at all. So that would concern me a little bit. So I would need to see a starting lineup to find out for sure if Goodwin plays. But I would just more so focus on playing Rajon Rondo, not worry about a Goodwin at all.
On the season, Rondo averaging 0.89 DK points per minute. Goodwin at 0.93 for what it's worth. I'm pulling up what we have right now as far as our projections on the Cleveland side. And 28 minutes for Rondo. We're projecting 20 for Goodwin, basically chopping the 48 minutes. Well, not exactly 50-50, but 28 to Rondo and 20 to Goodwin. Your thoughts here, Tim, what do you have as far as the Cleveland side? Again, we're guessing as far as who starts, but like, I don't think I care if Rondo comes off the bench. I think I'm still interested. Can you play them both, or is that just a bad idea? That's negative EV because
I definitely would make a rule in your GPP builds to not play both of them. I definitely would not do that. I agree with Andre that it doesn't necessarily matter who starts. I strongly prefer Rondo. I still think no matter what, he'll play more minutes. He's a better per minute producer. I think he's the type of player that I'm going to want to have. That's the type of cheap chalk that I want to roster.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. Otherwise, as far as the bigs on Cleveland, the Kevin Love price on FanDuel, if you're playing on FanDuel tonight, seems a little egregious. Just a little bit too cheap for as far as I can tell. But Mobley, Love, Allen, all three of those guys are in play. Worth noting, Lauri Markkanen's back. We're assuming he's going to start, which makes sense to me. I don't know how much he matters, but just we're acknowledging his presence. Tim, talk about the rest of the bigs as far as Cleveland or the rest of the Cavs in general.
My favorite is Mobley. I think he gets the biggest usage bump with Garland off the floor. Obviously, you could play Allen, but I prefer Mobley, and also I think that Kevin Love is a really, really good GPP play coming off the bench.
Yeah, I'm not playing on FanDuel tonight, but I feel really good about that 5.4K on FanDuel. What are your thoughts, Andre? It sounds like you're playing on both sites tonight, and Love at 5.4 just seems a little bit too cheap for what he can do in limited time on the season. Kevin Love's just elite. 1.2 FanDuel fantasy points per minute, 1.28 on DK. Doesn't need a ton of time, and Detroit not a defense you're afraid of. What do you have as far as the rest of the Cavs?
Yeah, Kevin Love is my favorite. Outside of Rajon Rondo, Kevin Love is probably my favorite Cleveland guy to roster tonight. I think all three of these bigs are good for GPPs. I might spring in also a little bit of Lauri Markkanen too on FanDuel, but Even that 6'2" Kevin Love, I think, is still a fantastic play where you're gonna get him at like 10% ownership, if not less. He can smash his price to have an upside game in any matchup. We know what he does when he's on the and this team is not good against the front court. There, I think in a bottom, I want to say the bottom 10 in the league as far as offensive rebounds in general, and also scoring for bigs. So I love the spot for Kevin Love coming off the bench. He can put up the points per minute quickly, as you said, 1.28 on FanDuel. On DK, which is fantastic, and on 1.20, 1.20 pretty much on FanDuel. So he's someone I'm going to have a lot of exposure to in my lineups today. I think it's just a fantastic matchup for him. And all these Cavs guys, I think you should probably try to sprinkle in at least one. If you don't go Rondo, you should have at least one of these other guys in GPPs, because I think one of these guys can definitely have and probably will have an upside game and be possibly in the winning lineup.
What about the other side, Detroit? Not a great matchup against Cleveland. They're going to play their 10 guys. That's just what they do. Nobody to me is a priority. I think Cunningham on FanDuel at 6K is interesting. If you want a super punt on DK, I think you could play Bagley in theory. You can play like 24 minutes or so. He's basically the floor as far as the price. But Andre, there's not a lot on Detroit that I'm excited about. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think Grant is still too cheap for obviously what he's for what he presents and brings to the table. I know his usage hasn't been as high as it was in the past, but that's just due to Kate Cunningham being there and Sadiq Bey. So hopefully maybe this might be a game where Jeremy Grant might have an upside game. So I'll have a little bit of him, not super high on him though. But Kate Cunningham is my favorite guy to roster here. But if I'm running Kate Cunningham in my lineups, I'm definitely going to run it back with somebody from Cleveland because I'm pretty much going to try to get an upside game from both guys on that side, whether it's Cade and Rondo, but preferably Cade and Love or Cade and Mobley or Cade and Allen, and just see what happens, because I think that this game should be tight and close and competitive. Detroit does play hard, so he'd be the main guy I would roster for sure. Sadiq Bey is also the other guy that I like. Just sprinkle here and there in tournaments. Not going to have a lot of ownership on him though. You
are getting Grant. I think basically the cheapest we've seen him all season long, like at 5.9. I'll give him that. You're basically buying him on the cheap. What do you have here, Tim, as far as Detroit?
For me, I'm with you, Dean. It's just Cade and then maybe sprinkling some Bagley. This game environment is really bad, and I think as we move down the slate, we'll see better spots ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if this next game's a better spot, but I think wasn't this a rematch of Boston at Brooklyn? 214.5 is a total. Boston in Brooklyn, still a 9-point favorite. Wasn't this like the 50-point game or something like that last time they played? It was an absolute thrashing. Yeah, of course, Brooklyn is still without their big three. No Durant, no Kyrie, no Simmons. They did acquire the Dragon Goran Dragic, but he's not going to be available for a while. James Johnson, we're expecting he's going to be good to go. He was a late scratch last time, but not on the injury report now. So I presume he's going to be good to go. And if he starts, he's one of the other potential cheapies, if you will, on the Brooklyn side. As far as Boston, they're fully healthy. Robert Williams off the injury report. Marcus Smart also off the injury report too, which surprisingly, if you watch that injury, I thought he was going to be out for a little bit longer, but good to have him back. So Boston fully healthy. Tim, as far as like predicting rotations and predicting minutes, Brooklyn is the most one of the more fickle teams to try to figure out. And I don't know, man. Do I have to figure it out? And if Johnson starts on DK at 3.5K, probably plays 28 to 30 minutes or so, and he's a decent fantasy point minute player. And then we'll get into the Drummond conversation as well too, which has been, man, it's been rough. His minutes have been LMA's hitting him to him. The Drummond, obviously not a key part of that trade. Like they're playing him right now just because they kind of sort of have to, because they're short on bodies. But yeah, talk about Brooklyn. Nobody really I'm thrilled about except maybe Johnson on DK if he starts.
Yeah, James Johnson, if he starts, is definitely a viable play. I'd actually, for tournaments, I would go heavier on LMA than I would with Drummond.
Okay.
it's impossible to figure out what Nash is going to do. I'm not going to sit and pretend like I know what he's going to do, but I think that given the $1,500 price difference and given the fact that LMA could very well play more minutes, I think that I would have more LMA. I'd be more likely to play LMA than I would to play Drummond.
Yeah, and he's just outplayed him too. Like for what it's worth, like
Yeah.
if you're watching the games, like I've had some Drummond, like I've been throwing some darts at him because he's a great fantasy point man player, and just he's looked bad so far for Brooklyn. And
he just isn't a good real life NBA player. That's the issue.
Yes.
He's fun to roster when he's cheap and he's chalky and he's going to produce. But in terms of if you were a real life NBA coach, I don't think you'd want this guy. So it's tough. It's tough to predict how much he's going to be out there. It's tough to predict what Nash is going to do.
The discrepancy of like how good he is versus how good he is at fantasy, like he's got a wider, bigger discrepancy than most, I would say.
Right.
1.3 DK points per minute, even better on FanDuel, 1.36. Certainly if you're running 150, Andre, I think Drummond at least get a pinch because maybe you catch him on the right night, and he has those games where he's like, he drops that 20-20 and it's like, he's not going to be owned tonight, far as I can tell. And again, Aldridge has clearly outplayed him, but doesn't mean like Drummond can't show up tonight and put up 20 and 20. Like that's possible. It's in his range. We've seen it this year. And of course, a lot of the usage guys are gone for Brooklyn as well. What are you doing here, Andre, as far as Drummond? Because I think he's really interesting for tournaments. I don't think I'm getting there in my single entry stuff, but large field stuff, I think he'd be in the pool for me.
He's definitely not in my pool. I think his price. His price is. I think what is his price on DK? DK
6'3".
He's expensive. 6'3" and 6'7", I believe.
Yeah.
It's kind of expensive for not knowing how many minutes he's going to play. Like Tim said, LaMarcus Aldridge, like from a lot of the games I've watched and seen, LaMarcus Aldridge is like the main guy, like the main big that they try to bring off the bench and play a lot. Plays the most minutes probably out of all the bigs. Claxton's not in the rotation. Blake plays sparingly and not as much as he was before. And I know they're trying to work Drummond in and everything, but I think this is a matchup where LaMarcus can take advantage of it. He can give you like 15 and 10, and plus he's going to be probably like a secondary or third option probably coming off the bench. And I expect him to probably be one of the higher scoring guys on the team. So I'm more inclined to go with LaMarcus for sure if I'm rostering anybody from Brooklyn. And I'll sprinkle a little bit of James Johnson here and there because his price is cheap on DK. 3.5 is extremely cheap. And he can give you like a 35 fantasy point game, if not higher. We see what he can do. So I don't mind doing that a little bit, and even Seth Curry here and there. But I'll just mainly rostering LaMarcus Aldridge as pretty much my primary guy on both sides. And I love that it's not owned on FanDuel at all either. That to me, that's a sneaky tournament winning play in my opinion.
Yeah, we could see him play 26, 27, 28 minutes off the bench. Like that wouldn't surprise. He can definitely close as well. You've gone to some of these Brooklyn games. Have you been lucky enough to catch Brooklyn with all their good players? Have you caught that in those games?
Yeah, I'm actually going. Yeah, I have. I'm going tonight too.
Oh,
but it's going to be weird. It's weird seeing them play with just their backups, but you get an idea for what Nash is doing with the rotation, or at least try to get an idea and see what's going on with the team and how far they're along. Like I expect KD to hopefully come back Saturday, but we'll see because I think he's ready to go. Personally,
he was really coy. Remember when they asked him about his injury? He's kind of like, nope, I can't give you an update. I got nothing for you. Like I was surprised. I thought like, is it possible he can play that early? I didn't think he was this far advanced in his injury.
Yeah, they've said 6 weeks, and this is about that 6-week mark. So okay. I think he should be back. It's just a matter of what the Nets want to do. To me, they should try to get him and Ben out there quickly so they build some continuity before the playoffs. But I'm not a coach. I'm just only a person that can't be the coach.
Where are you sitting? Can we see you on TV, or how close are you going to be?
I'll be behind the backboard. I won't be on TV, unfortunately, not today.
Nice. What about the other pieces on Brooklyn? we saw a Patty Mills game before the All-Star break, which I got off him just in time.
Interesting GPP.
I was just gonna say Patty Mills. We finally saw the ceiling game that we know he can put up, but I mean he's so shot dependent. But if he catches fire, you could smash these price tags on both sites. So and he's only projected for like 2%. So he's a good sprinkle if you're gonna do like 150 lineups.
Yeah.
I agree with that. He's interesting. Like I don't have my pool currently, but I've been tempted and thinking about it all day because I know that the upside is there. I just feel like Seth has had better games with with Boston this year, and Boston's defense has been the best since the new year started. So that's another thing that gets me down playing some of these guards and just want to focus more so on LaMarcus.
Yeah, Boston's got a plus defender in every single position. Like their defensively is really, really good. And the Brooklyn team is limited, right? The Curry's fine, and Mills is the floor is rough, but he can make those 5 threes and kind of get there. I think last time he had like 4 steals too, which obviously you can't predict that goofy outlier. Andre, I guess you feel obligated at least to some extent. At least I would. If I was in the building, I got to play some guys or kind of sort of stack the game, at least in a lineup or two, just because. Maybe you're different, but like I don't love this game. The stack Boston fully healthy, like they're all good, fine. Like Jalen, if I land on Jalen Brown, like okay, I'm not gonna blow the lineup up. Tatum's fine, but like nobody really jumps off the page like, oh, that's a screaming value. Do you have takes as far as Boston outside of like these guys are okay? I guess.
I love Jalen Brown, Tatum tonight for sure. Their prices are high. They'll be like if I have like that much money to spend as a last piece or second last piece, I probably would throw them in because I know that they're going to be low on the GPPs. But my favorite guy that I like to get to more so on DK is Marcus Smart. Just because in the last 10 games, he's been going crazy against Brooklyn. Like he's been averaging, I want to say at least like 14, 13 points in every single game and a couple of rebounds and steals and blocks. And that's including the playoffs last year. So Marcus Smart's the main guy I'm going to try to get into my rosters against Brooklyn today. At 6'2", just to be different from everyone else in GPPs as a last piece filling if I have that much. And I am kind of also interested in going with Robert Williams, just because I know if he gets 30 to 35 minutes, what he can do. But his price just scares me off of him. But that's someone that if you're running like 150, so I would say sprinkle him a little bit.
Tim, your thoughts as far as Boston?
I really wish this was like a different slate. Center is so deep today that I really want to play Robert Williams, but I just can't get to him because there's people below him and people above him that are just so much better plays. If this were a different slate in this matchup, I think he's going to smash. But me just playing one team, I just can't do it. Jalen Brown on FanDuel, I think is a pretty decent play. He's a good pivot off of Josh Hart, who I think is going to be pretty chalky. So that's a good GPP pivot.
Yeah, I saw Hart's price but the way he's been, we'll talk about him soon enough. I think he's really interesting tonight because small samples, his usage has been pretty crazy for Portland. And then like you look around in Portland, you're like, well, that's probably going to continue because look at the rest of his teammates. It's basically going to be him and Simons like just chucking like crazy. I'm really curious to get your takes as far as Hart. Anything else this game, boys, or shall we move on? You got anything else here, Andre, or we're moving on?
No, we move on.
All right. Atlanta, Chicago, big old number, 240.5. That is the total. Chicago is a 3.5 point favorite here. As far as injuries that we're monitoring, nothing official, but we're assuming John Collins, who's currently doubtful, not playing. Zach LaVine expected to be good to go as far as Chicago. Andre, man, that's the DeRozan thing. You said it like a month ago, at least a month ago, like DeRozan should be the MVP or is in the MVP conversation, and he's not even playing like one of late. He's got to be in that Family Feud board. Scoring at least 35 in every single game. Of course, LaVine is back, which should hit him to some extent, and the price is way up. are we still paying the salary for DeRozan, which is just so wild because the guy still doesn't hit threes. He still gets there. Yeah. What do you have for DeMar tonight?
He's a mid-range assassin. That's why he's amazing from it. But
He's in the wrong year. It's amazing. He's still thriving though.
Exactly. I'm not getting to him today because it's what 10-1 and 10-7. It's too expensive on the slate. I'm more inclined to go with Zach LaVine. I would love to play DeMar DeRozan today, but I just can't see myself paying that price for him. With Zach being back, I think that just hurts the usage a little bit for him when he was doing everything and putting up those 30-point games. Granted, we know he still can have it, but the chances of that happening are less likely now. So I'll be pretty much playing more so Zach and maybe putting a little bit of Nikola Vucevic in my lineups too, just a little tiny bit, but more so going with Zach LaVine at his price. And just seeing how the game goes. But I think that this game is probably a good game to target. You should try to have at least one player from each side of it for sure, especially more so when we're going to get to the Atlanta side, which is a good amount of players on that side that I like.
Yeah, Tim, your thoughts as far as the Bulls. LaVine, I think, is a better play on FanDuel if you're kind of shopping around. The rest of Chicago will jump over to Atlanta in a second.
Yeah, when I first saw this game, I was like, oh, there's going to be plenty of plays from this game that I'm going to like. I saw the total. It's the biggest team total on the board. And now I see that LaVine's back, and both DeRozan and Vucevic are at peak pricing. So for me personally, I think this is a fade. And even if DeRozan goes for, say, 55 at 10-7, I don't think that's going to be enough. So I mean, he could end up having a good game, and that's not going to win you a GPP. I think, honestly, I'm not playing anybody from the Bulls today, except for you. I mean, I do like LaVine on FanDuel, but that's for DK. I think they're just priced too high.
Yeah, 8-7 on DK for LaVine. He's 7-9 on FanDuel. I agree. That's obviously the place to play him if you're going to roll him out. And yeah, the three studs, when one comes back and the other two are at elevated prices, they're a little bit less appealing. That's just how it works out. Doesn't make sense to buy these guys at the top when their situation got incrementally worse.
If these three guys stay healthy, those prices are going to come way down. I mean, this is the peak of all these guys.
What about the Atlanta side? Because, well, I mean, Trae Young is just he's gonna smash here, right? I love him on DK tonight as a big spend at 9.9K. I think that's still probably a little bit too cheap. We got him projected for over 50 points tonight. We'll talk about, Booker as far as big spends, or Jokic as far as big spends. I think those are my three favorite when you consider all the elements, salary and all that kind of stuff. Where do you have him, Tim? Where do you have Trae Young as far as big spends in the slate?
The very first lineup that I made today had Trae Young in it. So I think that it really depends on what I want to do with Jokic. That's what it comes down to. Because he's in an absolute smash spot today. This game is going to be just such a shootout, and with no ball for the Bulls, that just hurts their defense so much. And I think
Caruso,
he's just going to put up. We have him projected for 50 points at under 10K. So, I mean, that's a really, really nice median projection. I think that he would be, if I were making multiple teams, I would try really hard to get overweight that 21% ownership projection.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at as well. I'm going to definitely have some Young. I don't know if he's going to be my main lineup, but in my head, that's a path I'm happy to entertain. Andre, how about you prioritizing, Trae Young? We'll talk about Capella in a second as well, too, where he seems still too cheap on DK. I know he hasn't been in great form, but the minutes feels solidified at least, which was kind of an issue not too long ago under the assumption that Collins does not play. It'll just be, Capella and Okongwu chopping in those 48 center minutes, and presumably Capella will be closing. First, though, Andre, your thoughts as far as Trae Young?
I love Trae Young today. Not my top big spend on the night, but I love him just as much. If I could get if I could get like 3 of these guys in on DK, he definitely, or 2 of them, he's definitely gonna be one of them for sure, just because the matchup is just so good and this game is going to be so fast and up tempo. And like you said, the lack of having Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso there for defensive purposes is going to hurt them. So I expect Trae Young to have a monster game here today. In games, this is an interesting thing too with the props too. I think in game, if you want to take the over on his points, I think Trae Young has hit the over on his points every single time John Collins has been out this year so far, if I'm correct. And his assists, except for the last game where they blew the team out, he's hit over on his assists too as well of 9.5. Too, since John Collins has been out, if I'm correct too. So if you want to get those in for sure. But Trae Young is definitely one of the better spends on the slate. So I'm going to look to have a lot of exposure to in my lineups for sure. And then I do love Capella's pricing too. Now that we know he's going to be getting around probably 25, 30 minutes a night. At 5'8" is just, and 6'1" are just too cheap. And if he can give me 40, 45 in this type of matchup, it's a perfect spot for it. So I'm going to be well over the field. I think he should be higher on than what he is, honestly. But I understand the center's position is kind of loaded today. So yeah, and for the other guys, Hunter, Gallinari, Herder, and Bogdanovich, who I really like more so all of them on DK, I would just rotate 1 or 2 of them in and out of your lineup if you're running back a game sack, which I would definitely do for sure today with this team. Because like you said, if no one's going to be playing Chicago Bulls, I want to play the Chicago Bulls side then. I'm going to play Zach LaVine running back with like a Trae Young, Capella, or Trae Young and Herder, or Hunter, someone else. But I definitely want to run that back.
I was just messing around with the optimizer and I locked in Jokic, Trae Young, and Booker to see what it gave me. You can make that work. You can
do it. You can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. We talked about Rondo. I don't want to give the full lineup away, but we talked about James Johnson. We talked about Rondo. Like it's right there. There are, and there's a big man from Portland that's probably going to be a cheapie. We'll talk about him soon enough. And yeah, not going to divulge the full lineup, but yeah, that's something you could do. Yeah, interesting. What do you have here, Tim, as far as the rest of the Atlanta Hawks? Do you feel okay about Capella? The price, especially on DK, I think is still too cheap. And then you have guys like Bogdanovich and Hunter, who, like, if nothing else, worst case, Gallinari or fillers at the worst.
Oh, definitely. We have Capella projected for 29 minutes tonight. I mean, if he can get 29 to 30 minutes, I would love to roster him tonight. We haven't yet to see like a real smash game from him, but I feel like it's there. And the longer it takes, the more ownership goes away from him and the better play it makes him in a GPP. So I think I also really like Gallinari tonight. I'm not a huge DeAndre Hunter guy, especially. I think we have him projected for 20% ownership, but I think that's a little high. But I do really like Capella quite a bit.
Yeah, you might be a little hot on Hunter. I had the similar process or thought process as well, but he has 4.5 on DK, right? Not this great fantasy point minute player, but he should play a good bit. 0.73 DK. Do you have a favorite wing, Andre, as far as the wings tonight for Atlanta? If you were to pick amongst, Hunter or I don't, Gallinari can be a wing sometimes, not necessarily. Bogdanovich, like, outside the top 2, like, who's your favorite next Atlanta guy?
Yeah, I was leaning more towards Hunter, but because I know he's gonna have the minutes there for sure. It's tough. It really is tough. I really want to say Hunter, but I do also like I love Bogdanovich on DK. So I guess on FanDuel I would say I like Hunter. On DK it's gonna be Bogdanovich for me.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Hunter.
Bogdanovich is very expensive on FanDuel. I think he's 6.7.
Yeah, I mean, I can't talk to that.
Could make him a really good GPP play, but
but he's got to put up like 39.
Yeah,
which I guess he can, but like it's not something that's very frequent, obviously. You got anything else, Tim, as far as this game that's worth pointing out before we move on?
I think we're good.
Do want to say what's up to those watch us on YouTube. Took me a while to acknowledge y'all. My apologies. Hit that like button. Do subscribe. Do turn on those notifications. join the conversation. We want to entertain whatever questions, whatever we did not talk about, whatever we did not focus on, you want us to elaborate on, drop in any questions you may have, or just join the conversation in our Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord. What you're going to do is you're going to find the live stream chat channel in the featured channels. You got Chiefs Prop Shop, which is there as well. Again, these are not premium. This is a non-premium channel. The Prop Shop is. Grant's, we'll talk about Grant's action room in a second. But the live stream chat channel, that's where the questions are being compiled. Producer Steve's all over it. He's going to compile those questions, throw them my way. I will ask them on your behalf at the end of the show. Again, rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel, and just debuting today, at least to my knowledge, is Grant's Action Lounge Discord. If you want to tail some of Grant's bets, he puts his bets in there. Join Grant's Action Lounge Discord channel and follow along with all of his bets throughout the day. Everything from boosts, and he'll talk about some props, spreads, live bets sometimes. If you don't have time to do research, just go ahead and jump in there. And I was on his show earlier today, like Monday through Friday, 2:00. Grant does a bet show, and he just threw all of his bets in there. That's what he said when he was in the show. I assume that's what he did. So yeah, and that's gonna be free for at least the next month or so. At some point, I think that's gonna be the premium. But we want to give you guys a taste of what's going on there in Grant's Action. Grant's Action Lounge? That's the official name. I couldn't think of the official term. Yeah, all these featured rooms now. The Prop Shop for Chief is that's non-premium. The live stream chat, of course, non-premium as well. What's up, everybody? Hang out in the chat. Fire off your questions. Give us some details. The more details, the better. Let us know if it's for FanDuel or DraftKings or Yahoo, or if it's cash, or if it's tournaments, or if it's single entry. All that stuff is helpful. All right, let's talk about the next game. Another big old number. Memphis, Minnesota, 239.5 is the total. High and tight for sure. Memphis is just a 1-point favorite here. They're also fully healthy, right? Where Tillman should be available for what it's worth. Well, not fully healthy. Dylan Brooks is still hurt. Minnesota, they are fully healthy, Andre. So this is one of those games where, there should be a lot of fantasy points scored, but there's nobody getting any additional edge or extra minutes because so-and-so is out. But it's just a good spot, like Ja as well. It's a good spot for Ja. We'll talk about him, but focus on the Timberwolves first, Andre. I guess you're talking about games that potentially stack. This feels like one that maybe in the podium, top 3 as far as stackable games.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite games to stack because mainly because it includes the guy that I honestly think is probably one of the best plays on the slate. And he's going to come in at probably less than 10% ownership. And that's going to be D'Angelo Russell. D'Lo this year against Memphis, point-wise, has put up 30, 28, and 29 points in all 3 of the games against them. And we know how good of a defense they are. And rebounds have been okay. He's not much of a rebounder. Assist-wise, doing okay. I'll probably say about 6.5 assists. But was the shocking thing that I looked and found out, he has made at least 4 threes in every single game he's played against Memphis. So that, to me, that gives me a lot of confidence. I don't see why this game would be any exception for him having a bad game. So D'Lo is my favorite guy to roster from the Timberwolves going against Memphis. I definitely like getting to Anthony Edwards on DK more so because his price is 7.5. That's just extremely too cheap. And Towns is right there next to him for sure. I can't get away from playing none of those guys, and I'm definitely gonna run it back on the other side with like a guy like John Morant, Bane, or Jared Jackson, who I love today as well. And you can even spring a little bit of Patrick Beverly in there too, who I think is a good value at his price today.
Yeah, I like him for 5K on DK. He never really somebody I'm thrilled about playing, but I like Beverly. It's like just, he makes everything else work. I'm good with that. Edwards and Towns both at 27% usage in the season. Russell right there at 25. The 3 main shooters, obviously. I just never really know, Andre. I never really know when they're all playing, like who elevates amongst the 3 and whose night it's going to be. Do you think that's just like a small sample thing, or why do you think Russell just smashes versus Memphis?
I don't know. I was trying to look into that, and I think it's maybe more so the matchups that they have. I think they probably put their best defender on a guy. Obviously, you got Steve Adams going against a guy like Carlton Towns, and they probably put their best defender on a guy like I would assume on a guy like Anthony Edwards, because he has just he's more the aggressor out of the two as far as when it comes to between him and Russell. So I think that this leaves Russell to go against one of the three of the weaker defenders that they have on their team. I don't want to say Ja's a weak defender, but but Russell has obviously a bigger body size over him and can get to the basket probably a little bit more against him. So and obviously pull back and shoot the three. So I'm just more inclined to just go with that route of, I guess, path of least resistance. And also I think Patrick Beverly is starting in a lineup too. So then that moves even him down to the shooting guard position. And I don't think, and obviously these guys play good team defense, but individually, some guys I think on this team can't hold up that well. So even if he gets switched on to a guy like Bain in a mismatch, I think that he can still take advantage of that, or a guy at the small forward position, whoever it is going to be for Memphis. I think Russell could just take advantage of that too as well. So I'm just more inclined to go with a guy like him over the other two, but I think all of them are still great plays. And this game is definitely a game we're going to have a lot of players from, and majority of probably my players will be coming from this game stacking wise.
Where are you at here, Tim, as far as Minnesota?
Yeah, this is my favorite game stack. I much prefer this as a game stack for GPPs more than the Atlanta-Chicago game, because I feel like there's some more affordable pieces that you can fit in. I really like Steven Adams today, as weird as that sounds.
He's been great of late.
He has been great, and Memphis is the best rebounding team in the NBA. And I feel like that's just going to elevate his floor more and more, being out there with Towns. I think he's really going to neutralize Towns. I think they're going to want to win this game. We have Adams projected for 30 minutes. My guess is he plays a couple minutes more than that. And he's Capella and Adams are similarly priced and similarly owned. I slightly prefer Adams if I had to pick one of those two.
So that's like something you can do not to cut you off, but like that in a single entry contest, right? Like you can have a chalk-tastic lineup and just take out Capella, who's going to be way more popular than Adams, and all of a sudden you're different. Maybe there's another tweak or whatever, but basically different enough in a single entry contest that's not this massive field and the condensed ownership. Like, is that enough just to be different?
Yeah, I mean, I think that people get scared away from Steven Adams because he has these really bad floor games, and I don't blame people for being scared off of him. But I think this is the type of game to buy on him. And obviously you can always play Morant. I'm a big fan of Morant personally. I think this is going to be the fastest paced game on the slate. I think Minnesota plays at the third fastest pace and Memphis plays at the eighth fastest pace in the whole league. So, I mean, this is going to be a real shootout. I like Pat Beverly quite a bit. He's about a point per minute producer. And I think as long as he doesn't get into foul trouble, he should be a really good play, but you never know with him. And I also think this is a really good spot for Anthony Edwards.
Last 15 games, by the way, Minnesota, the fastest team in all of basketball, Memphis, the fourth fastest. So they've been playing faster of late. And that's what I like Pat Bev in this kind of environment where he can just give you like 8, 7, 6, 3, and 2. Like that's, just a little bit of everything. And
there's going to be I think there's just going to be so many fantasy points to go around in this game. And I think that's a perfect type of game to play Pat Beverly in.
So you prefer Edwards over Russell? Andre likes Russell. I mean, I'm sure Andre likes Edwards too, but
I mean,
I don't know which one. I don't know which one to like. I never really.
I don't have a problem with Russell. I don't have a problem with Russell. I like Edwards' price just because I think he's got a lot of ceiling with that price, and I also like that he's shooting guard, small forward. I like that quite a bit.
You said if you're stacking this game, I guess you're more likely to play Adams over Cat. Of course, salary matters too.
I would stack this game without Cat. That would be my recommendation.
Andre?
I'm stacking it all kind of ways, every kind of way possible. With Cat, without Cat. I just love everything about this game. Edwards, I like Edwards too. I think he definitely has probably more upside in his price. What concerns me is that knee. I know he's had like some time to rest, like a week to rest at this point, but that knee is just still concerns me just from the last 2 games. He hasn't performed how he normally has, and I think that needs to take a little bit of effect on it, and he just has no time to really rest besides that point because they're trying to make that playoff push and get into at least the playing tournament. So that's why I would lean more towards Russell as well.
How much are you prioritizing Ja?
I'm gonna try to as much as I possibly can because I don't think it's gonna be that high on, but his price at 10.4 is just too expensive. It's just really expensive. That's what just makes it hard. We know he can break the slate clearly, but 10.4 on DK is expensive. 10K is fine to play on FanDuel, in my opinion, but he's crushed every single time he's played. Every time he has an obstacle in front of him, he has crushed, especially when he has guys out in adversity. He steps up, but I just don't know how much I'm going to get to him today when you have a guy like Trae Young who's a little bit cheaper. Then we also have another guy we didn't get to in a later on game that I think is an absolute lock, and another guy that I really like a lot too.
Yeah, that it's funny. That's the question I was going to ask. Like the Young feels like the clearly the better play, but it doesn't mean that Ja can't outscore him. A little bit different as far as salary, well, depending on where you're looking, I guess. But do you feel the same way, Tim? Like, is like Young the better play than Ja? But then if you look at ownership, are you getting enough value in the ownership discrepancy that it's worth playing Ja? If that all makes sense.
Oh no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean it's a tough call because Young is a better play, and he's cheaper, so that $500 on DK might matter. But I mean, it all depends on kind of your contests and how many lineups you're making. I mean, that's what it comes down to. If you're someone like me that just wants to play one team, I'm going to play Trae Young, but I'm not going to fault you if you want to play Morant.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at, and I might like intentionally make one with Ja, just kind of start there. You're running back with one of the Minnesota guys, but like I'm more likely to land on Young as well, which take that for what it's worth, and that's single entry thought process as well, like smaller field, that kind of thing. Anything else? Well, you should mention like Bane, Triple J. We didn't really talk about those guys, but of course like they're all fine. I think they're fine. Triple J and Bane. Tim, you have thoughts as far as Bane and Jaren Jackson?
I would prefer Jaren Jackson over Bane. I like the interior guys for the Grizzlies today quite a bit. Of course, with JJJ, it's kind of the minutes can be fragile. So it's risky, but there's definitely upside in this matchup.
Yeah, his minutes can be frustrating for sure for a variety of reasons. It's not even like foul trouble sometimes, just like he's just not getting run just because. And also they're fully healthy. That's just how it goes sometimes. What do you have, Andre? As far as I assume if you're running a bunch of lineups, those guys are in your pool, especially if you like this game. Of course, you can get a ceiling game out of both those, both Bane and Triple J. Do you have a preference amongst the two?
I'm going to lean right now more towards Jaren Jackson. I think he's just been on a roll on a tear lately, so I'm gonna just keep riding with the guy who has a hot hand. But we know he can get into foul trouble quickly at any given moment. But I do like his matchup where he has to go against a guy like Vanderbilt or McDaniels, and he should be able to take advantage of that.
Andre, how many T-Wolves you got in your pool? You got Cat, Russell, Edwards, Beverly. Do you extend it to McDaniels and Vanderbilt? Are they in the pool?
I've been trying to think about that. I don't know. To me, it makes it hard because I honestly want to play McDaniels. I think McDaniels can have a good game here, but I just really don't know how many minutes he's going to play. And that's what I've been trying to dig into more as the day has gone on to see how many minutes he's going to get play. But Vanderbilt and McDaniels to me are great tournament plays. I definitely think you should probably roster him today. I think he's a good play. I mean, those are good. Those are both good plays, but I like McDaniels way more, and I would sprinkle him a little bit in tournaments if you're going to rerun like 150.
I mean, 3.6 on DK. It's a perfectly fine cheapie. 27 minutes we're projecting off the bench. Vanderbilt at 25.
And then also one of them get in foul trouble, like say for instance Patrick Beverly gets in foul trouble, or God forbid Anthony Edwards goes down again. That's going to lead to more minutes for McDaniel. So honestly, you probably want to sprinkle those guys in.
Could you? I thought you might be making an argument for Beasley as like a 1 in 150
dart. Oh no. Because even when I think even when Anthony Edwards went down the first game with the knee and didn't come back, Beasley did not play that much. The minutes went to McDaniels, and I think McDaniels had a big game.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a couple big games, Beasley. I just never get him. Whenever I roster that dude, it's just always the worst possible time. All right, let's move on. Phoenix, OKC, 219 is the total. Phoenix is a 10-point favorite. Of course, Chris Paul going to be out for the foreseeable future, basically a month plus, whatever it is, not playing tonight. Landry Shamet is expected to come back tonight and be available. Campaign is close, but he's not available just yet. OKC still without Lou Dort, JRE, Kenrich Williams, Ty Jerome, Muscala. But at least to my surprise, Andre, SGA is back. I didn't expect that, but okay, cool. OKC, like, you don't want to win, do you? But all right, sure. Let him have a good time out there. Giddey is coming off 3 straight games of triple doubles, which I think he's the youngest person ever to do it 3 times or just once. I think he's basically dead. Yep. I made an argument betting the under today in his points, under 15.5 points in the show earlier today. If you're in the right states and all that kind of stuff. I am not chasing those 3 games. Good for him, but if you look at the on-off stuff, SGA really affects him, as one would guess. We're projecting 34 minutes, Andre, for SGA right out the gate, which that feels a little bit ambitious to me. Like, he can play 34, wouldn't surprise me. I don't know what to do with this, basically. But in theory, if he plays 34 and nobody's going to play him, he's going to run the show. What are you doing here?
I'm going to play a little bit of them. Not going to play a lot of them. 9K is expensive. I'd rather just pay a couple $100 more and get to a guy like Trae Young, honestly. So we don't know how competitive this game is going to be, honestly, either. And I don't want to predict blowouts because we've seen things go sideways and not be a blowout. And OKC does play hard, but I can't imagine this game being that close without Dort being there. And them just relying on a guy with SGA and Giddey. But he's worth the roster for sure. I just don't see an upside game. I can see him probably getting like 45, 50 points is fine, but I think we're going to need more than that on the slate to win the tournament.
So I'm a liar. It was 34 earlier today. It's 32 minutes now. So somebody adjusted it. They might have reconsidered. I SGA at 34 minutes earlier today, and 32 sounds a little bit more realistic. And it's not a good matchup either. Obviously, Phoenix, defensively, one of the best defensive teams in the league. Yes, they're without, Chris Paul was a good defender, but they're collectively just a good defense. Bridges is still out there, obviously. It's hard to like anybody on OKC side. And that's basically long story short for me, Tim. SGA is going to come back and eat up a bunch of usage. So now you have some players that have done well in his absence that are now are at peak asking price, and their usage is going to fall back. So we're in that spot where we need stuff to adjust, and until it does, nothing's really good.
Yeah, there are no starters for the Thunder that I'm interested in. I think you could sprinkle in some Pokusevski. I think since they're so thin with big men, I don't think anybody like Roby is a good play. I think there's just too many good centers out there that, I just don't like any of the projected starters for the Thunder.
Yeah, if you're going to get 29 minutes out of Roby, he's kind of sort of something interesting, but I don't know how you can predict that. But he had 29 last game. But is that going to be the same going forward? Who knows? OKC has pretty fickle rotations as well. And it seems like they always have a bunch of dudes available, and they do tonight. And they're still going to have plenty of guys available. As far as the Phoenix side, and I think we've alluded to a couple of times throughout the show, Booker, Tim, how good is Booker versus OKC team that's going to be without their best defender and Lou Dort? The combination platter of that and facing OKC and no Chris Paul. And Booker is going to be surrounded by guys that like aren't big usage guys, and Holiday and Bridges and Crowder, and Booker is just going to take 25 plus shots, right? Like he looks awesome.
I think personally, no matter what their starting lineup is that we see tonight, that he's going to be point Booker. Like he's going to run the show no matter what the starting lineup is. And I think that and not to backtrack at all, but this is one of the reasons why I'm not as big into D'Angelo Russell, because shooting guard, I'm taking up with Booker. There's already point guards that I want to play. So that leaves for me somebody like Edwards that's small forward eligible. So that's just one of those things for me, that Devin Booker is going to be in my shooting guard slot everywhere. So he should be your plug and play in all formats.
36 minutes running the show versus OKC without Dort. Looks like an awesome play.
And even if they blow the Thunder out, a lot of that's going to come from Booker. So I don't even care about that.
Andre, how much are you prioritizing Booker? Are you with us that he's just he's clearly a great play, and if you want to be under, I understand why you would. Are you taking a stand on Booker over under or what?
If you are under on Booker, if you're under than 100% on Booker, I don't know what you're doing with your life. I really don't. Like
lock button.
I'm locking him in. 9K is too cheap for him in this role that he has. He in order for them to win, he has to be the primary ball handler. Like he's a point Booker, he has to do everything: rebound, assist, score. And we know we're gonna know he's gonna get all facets of that game from them tonight, especially against OKC. They can't afford to lose if they want to hold on to this division lead against Golden State. So every game is going to be important for them to play and win. So I just lock them in. I don't know what else to say besides just go over to the thing where it says okay, lock them in. Don't do anything else and just move forward and make your lineups.
You think he's got a decent shot at a double-double? I haven't thought about that, but as far as assist-wise, like he's going to be running the point.
His assist percentage goes up to I think 31%. So yeah, he has a good shot of it. I like his over on his assists today.
I was just trying to think if you've looked at like the sports books there, anything interesting. I saw like 40 points. I think it was 8-1 earlier today. I think it's dropped a little bit, but I like the idea of laddering up his points and just like hitting every threshold.
Oh yeah,
this just seems like a spot where he should crush. And do you think Golden State catches Phoenix? I'm looking at their 7.
As soon as I've heard the news that Chris Paul was out, I took money on Golden State winning the division. They're going to catch him. They're going to.
There's 7 games behind in the loss column, and there's like 25 games left. Is that about right? Yeah.
Yeah, about that. So yeah, they're going to catch him.
That really speaks to how much how good Paul's been. Like this is Paul's first game he's missing all year, and I think he missed just 2 last year. Mm-hmm. It's wild. Like I don't know why they play him as much as they do, and it's just a thumb thing or whatever. But that was not because he was overexerted, I don't think. But yeah, he's obviously still really, really good. One of the more underappreciated guys last 15, 20 years, I would say. Probably because he hasn't won a title, but that's a whole other conversation. That's not necessarily his fault.
Our projections have Booker for 6.47 assists. I don't know what the sports books have him at, but I would take the over 6.5 though.
I'm gonna pull it up now. Now I'm curious to see. And you could bet what's the point of betting a double-double? Like, of course he's gonna get 10 points. You get whatever line's better. Yeah. Yeah.
Have assists that we have that the sports books have him at. Yeah, you have to look back to last year when he last season when Booker played without Chris Paul. I'm doing that right now actually to see what the stats are. And yeah, he's had one game. It was only a couple games. He had one game where he didn't have that many assists. He only had 5 assists. The other 2 games that he had played without Chris Paul, he had 8 and 11 last year.
Yeah.
So
do you have a second favorite Sun tonight, Andre?
I've been going back and forth, but I really like DeAndre Ayton here in this spot. I'm just worried about the blowout. But I can't be worried about that. So I'm gonna roll with Ayton and have a decent amount of him in my lineup today for sure. And I do want to get exposure to a little bit of exposure to Mikal Bridges. I think he's his price, I think, is a little bit too cheap for probably the role, because he's probably going to have to be the third primary scorer for this team. So I like that option for him, and I think he's definitely a better play on FanDuel, with the price being a little bit cheaper, and plus the steals and blocks upside on there.
Yeah, it's a good
I was
stock
just going to
matchup.
say Bridges on FanDuel is my second favorite son.
Yeah, he seems like an awesome play over there. What, he's like 5'5" or something like that. He's going to play a ton of minutes against an OKC team, the OKC team that's really, really sloppy, and that's where he thrives. Yeah, I like Bridges as well over there. Not the same necessarily on DK. Tim, you got anything else as far as Phoenix you want to add, or shall we move on?
I think we can move on.
All right, 2 games left. Denver, Sacramento, 233.5 is the total. Denver is a 3.5 point favorite. This is another thing I talked about earlier on the show with Grant, 2 o'clock, the betting show. So Nikola Jokic is the absolute best player in all of basketball. I could end that sentence right there and arguably be just good with that, but whatever. He's not the MVP. Whatever. So when it comes to scoring points in the paint, 15.2 points in the paint, and this season Sacramento has yielded the most points in the paint to opponents. Jokic is always a good play, Tim. Always, sure, if you can get him, by all means, have at it. But this feels like a really good matchup too. I know that their defense has changed a little bit. And they've had Sacramento some moving parts. They have Sabonis in there now, but he's not going to subdue or suppress anything Jokic wants to do. I think it's an awesome matchup. I think he smashes. It's just a matter of lineup instruction. What's there to say? He's great.
Yeah, I mean, you can play Jokic whenever you want, and that's the big decision point that I'm struggling with currently with my one lineup is, and I'm probably going to play Jokic because it's just tough to pass up that 65 to 70 raw points that you're going to get from him. And the spread is only 4. I thought the spread was going to be much bigger in this game. So Vegas disagrees with me though. So he should be able to get his full run, which, I mean, this is just such a smash spot. The Kings defense is just so bad, and they play at a pretty fast pace. So more possessions for Jokic is just a great thing for fantasy players. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say.
You like anybody else on Denver? I think Barton's fine, at 5'8" on DK, but it's just, there's not much that I feel like it's just sort of there.
They're priced a little too high for me, I think. I just think that it's just Jokic or nobody for the Nuggets.
Andre, you hitting that lock button on Booker? I don't think you're hitting the lock button on Jokic just because he's 12-5. He's expensive and all that. How much you plan on getting?
Dear God, I don't know. I'm trying to still decide that because I'm afraid of not having enough and him getting a triple double and putting a monster game. But then I'm also think that we have enough other guys in the 9K range, and the 10K range that could match what he matches and give me that upside game. We're getting close to what he has and pay less money for. So even the guy on the other side, like Sabonis, I think he can obviously give you a 50 to 55 point game here in this matchup. So I'm gonna have a little bit of both, but I'll probably be a little bit under on at least DK. On FanDuel 11-4. I think you just gotta probably roll with it.
It's too cheap.
Yeah, it's too cheap. Just roll with it there. But yeah, so I think that's what I'm going to handle it tonight. It's just be a little bit under, or match the field on DK, but be at the field, not over on FanDuel.
We haven't projected Andre for 63.49 DK points. What's the number where you feel like you're in trouble? If he puts up 63, you could survive that, right? Yeah. What's the number? It's not, it's fine. Whatever. You'll probably play. If I told you he's putting up 63.5 points, right now, no more, no less. You're not hitting the lock button. You're probably playing him in, I don't know, 30% of your lineups, 40% of your lineups, 50%. Well, what's the number?
Probably around 35, just around 35%, because I think that we have a guy like Trey Young who is going to be in a competitive up-tempo matchup against against Chicago that can get there at 9-9. I'm lock butting Devin Booker. We didn't even talk about Steph Curry yet. who this game will still be probably a little bit close with them. Vucevic, Tatum. So like I mentioned, Sabonis before, and Simons could even have a 50-point fantasy game. So you have other guys that have other options where you could get probably play less for those guys, and get more of those guys who have upside for like 50 points to just match that, or not get really close to that Jokic price, and have 2 or 3 of those guys, and you'll be fine.
What are you doing with Sacramento? I don't really like Sacramento.
I think it's going to be a competitive game. So I like, to me, if I'm playing Jokic at 12-5, I'm running it back. So to me, it's either Sabonis, Fox, or Barnes. Those are 3 guys I like from Sacramento. They've been the probably the top three high usage guys on there. So I probably prefer Sabonis first, followed by Fox. Barnes is last, just because he's been, even though he's coming on late and probably had to take a little bit to get adjusted to Sabonis, I think he's just the worst DFS option out of the 3.
What do you have here, Tim, as far as the Kings?
It would just be Sabonis for me, because I think point guard is too loaded with other talent. The opportunity cost is too high to go with somebody like Fox. Maybe Barnes, but I think he's a little too expensive for my liking. So I think it's really just Sabonis for me.
Yeah. I mean, I would say maybe Fox, but I wish he was a little bit cheaper. And I like the other guys that aren't, like, I have a hard time arguing Fox over Young and Booker, who are kind of sort of basically the same price, So, but again, if you want to run back, I get it. Anything else that's worth noting here, Tim, or just Sacramento's mostly a not wave?
They have a lot of the guys that were out coming back now on their bench, so they're pretty deep right now. So I don't think there's anybody off the bench that I would even bother with.
All right, so there are 2 games at 10 o'clock, Denver, Sacramento, and it's interesting just the way those slate breaks down. 7 games. First 5 are locked in by 8. Then we have that 2-hour break. It's kind of sort of a doubleheader. Denver, Sacramento, Golden State, Portland is the other one. 227 is the total. Portland is a 10-point dog here because, well, they're without a lot of good players. Lillard, Nurkic is now done for the next month or so. Jingle and Joe Ingles, I don't think, well, yeah, they traded for him with a torn ACL. They're in full tank mode, obviously. Keon Johnson should be available. Bledsoe not available as far as Golden State. Iguodala still out. Draymond still out. Gary Payton expected to be available and expected to start. He is really cheap on DK. Andre, I'll throw this one to you. You mentioned Steph, and you can always play Steph. Yeah. I mean, 50 points in the All-Star game. Yeah. What do you think as far as Curry? And I guess Peyton's going to be the one that draws the biggest ownership on DK because he's 3-4, but they have a pretty deep team. And even when you start for Golden State, you don't necessarily play more than 27 minutes, 20, unless you're Steph or Wiggins or Thompson. Right. But yeah. What do you have as far as Golden State?
I like Steph here in this spot. This game should, well, I don't, like I said, don't like putting blowouts. This game shouldn't even be close, but with the way Golden State is set up and them not having Draymond back to pretty much orchestrate their defense, this game should still be competitive and come down to probably somewhere in the 4th quarter before it gets maybe a little bit out of hand. But I think that this is an opportunity for Steph to continue this hot streak that he had from the All-Star game where he hit like 16 threes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up a monster game here. There's a perfect team to do it against. And if you want to really make it known that, hey, especially to everyone in the league that, hey, we're going to come for that number 1 seed. This is a good start to do it with. So I like this spot for him to definitely have a big game here, especially at the low ownership of 10.9 at 10.5. At 10% that we have him at on DK. I think that there's a chance that he can definitely match him, not get really close to what Jokic does tonight, especially if he's on fire with them for the threes and the 3-point bonus that they have on DK. So to me, he's someone I definitely want to be over the field on DK and on FanDuel, where he's even cheaper at 9.3. So
that's a good price.
I just want to try to roster this guy as much as I possibly can. I'm gonna sprinkle in some Wiggins and some Gary Payton. Obviously, Gary Payton's too cheap. More so on DK than FanDuel. FanDuel, I do like Gary Payton at 4.2 a little bit, but I'm gonna probably have a little bit of him, and I'll do like get into a little bit of Klay Thompson in tournaments because we know Clay can just go off at any given moment in any given game.
We have some questions being compiled in the Rotogrinders Discord channel. Again, if you guys are watching us on YouTube, feel free to like, subscribe, turn on notifications. You want to join the conversation. Still time to get your question in. Rotogrinders.com/Discord. Go to the live stream chat channel. That is a free channel, not a premium channel. Fire off your question. Do say hello. Do join the conversation. Also want to mention, if y'all are not aware, 24 hours, we're giving a discount as far as the combo discount. 2 months of RG Premium for 50% off, which again includes basketball, that's college and pro, PGA, MMA, essentially any sport with the exception of NASCAR. 50% off going right now. Tim, your thoughts as far as Golden State, and I think we might see a chalky Peyton, which I don't. That again, it's a low usage guy, but he's a pretty good fantasy player, but he gets there through like defense and rebounds and boards and 3.4K on DK. What do you think of Peyton and the rest of the Warriors?
I like Peyton a lot more than Holiday for the Suns. Peyton still goes for about, I think it's about 0.9 fantasy points per minute while being on the court with Curry. So he can still produce, but like you alluded to, the big issue is Kerr's rotations. So he can't guarantee that he's going to play 30 minutes. However, I think that I think I'm going to need a punt, especially if I'm going to play Jokic. So I think Peyton is my punt in that range.
Ooh. The news this break, Andre? What just happened?
No, I just realized someone was cheap. I just looked them up that I like from this game too. Sorry, Jonathan Kuminga. I'm going to mention him. Just play him. He plays, like you said, mentioned with the rotations. We know from what I've been seeing too, Otto Porter has not been playing a lot. I don't know if they're going to keep that trend, keep him healthy so he doesn't get hurt for the playoffs. And Kuminga's been starting, so I'll be inclined to play more so Jonathan Kuminga, especially with no Nurkic there. So at 4-5 and 5-4, he can have a big game, especially against a team like this.
Yeah, and as far as rotations for Golden State, like you never really know when like Lee's going to have his night as far as minutes being elevated, or Poole as well. There's just plenty of options. Moody every once in a while. I'm not saying he's going to get much run at all, if any, tonight, but they're there, and Kerr likes to tinker for sure. Obviously, the Portland on the other side, we kind of alluded to it earlier in the show a couple times here, Andre. Simons has been firing a ton from three, just firing in general, just shooting a ton of shots, and a small sample. Hart's taking a ton of shots as well for Portland because, again, you have low usage guys around him. No Nurkic as well, no McCollum, obviously, no Powell. Ellaby is a low usage guy. Winslow, a low usage guy. Watford, we're expecting to draw a start, a low usage guy. Interesting cheapie. We'll talk about him in a second. But, how much Josh Hart is 7.2 on DK, 7K on FanDuel, and I think a pretty good play. Simons is 8.1 on DK and 7.6 on FanDuel. And, again, if this game stays close, Andre, it's because those two are making shots, I assume, at least.
Yes, it would definitely be from those two just making shots and putting games. That's why I would definitely run it back with a guy from Golden State Warriors to just if they're going to keep it close. Well, matter of fact, if I'm playing Steph, I'm going to run it back with a guy like Simons or Hart because they're going to keep it close. And maybe a little bit vice versa, but I still could see the other side of the game as far as Simons or Hart getting there with this still being maybe a little bit of a blowout. So, but I'm inclined to definitely want to roster these guys for sure. I love the rebounding upside for Josh Hart with no Nurkic there. I think that makes his price probably obsolete and not high enough for what he can bring to the table. And Simons should have the highest usage on a team. So yeah, I don't see the normal roster any of these guys. I do kind of like I was looking at this earlier. Watford is not a bad play. 3.5 is a cheap price to play. I just don't know how much I'm going to have of him. Just because, like I said, we talk about rotations. Like I know he hasn't been getting a lot of minutes, and I know that this is a different situation with Nurkic being out, but we also know this on Drew Eubanks. He's not in the player pool. I think on DraftKings he is on FanDuel, but I don't know how many minutes Eubanks is going to play. So that kind of concerns me. I'll play some Watford. I'll be at the field, but I won't play a lot of it because I just don't know what the situation is as far as how they're going to run their bigs out there and if they want to play small ball or not. More small ball than they already probably will be playing to begin with. And I do kind of like a guy like Justice Winslow. I know his price is up. I think he's a decent tournament play for sure. If you're running like 150.
Rondo starting, he's going to be $1 billion % owned.
Lock. You might want to lock Rondo in too.
I mean, yeah, everybody's gonna play. I mean, every optimizer is gonna spit out Rondo as a top play. Yeah, Tim, as far as Portland, speak on Watford. How much are you prioritizing him as a potential cheapie? Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. I think that he's completely viable in all formats. It's just, it's just the opportunity cost at center. That's what it comes down to. But on FanDuel, he's power forward. So in my opinion, he's a way better play on FanDuel because he's power forward. So if I were playing FanDuel tonight, I would lock him in. But DK, it's a tougher decision because you have to take up a center spot, and that can be tricky. Simons and Hart, they're going to play minutes in the mid to upper 30s tonight. And, that's obviously going to be, I mean, that's huge. So Simons loves to chuck it. And, if the shot falls, he's going to smash that price tag. He's just at a funny kind of price because you want to play guys like Booker. You want to play guys like maybe, obviously Trae Young. So I don't know if I'm going to get the Simons.
Some questions here in chat are relevant to this conversation. Andre, FanDuel thoughts as far as Drew Eubanks. I think he's 4.5K over there. I have no idea how many minutes he's going to play. I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know. I guess your thoughts.
I can't. I want to. I really do because that's an edge in GPPs. But 4 or 5 is too much. If it was 3-5, I would say yes, play him because you never know. But at 4 or 5 he's just too expensive to just try to play and see what happens. We don't know the minute situation with him yet.
For the record, we're projecting 16 minutes, which I think is a pretty reasonable guess. Greg Brown's also there too. He's another big body, and you're facing Golden State, a team you don't necessarily have to run big against. We're projecting Watford for 27 minutes, Brown for 16, and Eubanks for 16. A couple more questions. At least I saw a couple more questions relevant to this. Yeah, so lots of hype on Watford with Portland being shorthanded. Is Looney a good pivot, or will he have low minutes since no stud big man is on the other side? Do you think, Andre, Watford or whoever they're throwing at Golden State's going to matter as far as Looney, or Looney's going to play what he's going to play?
I think Looney's going to play whatever Coach Kerr feels like playing them. It could be anywhere from 16 to 30 minutes, honestly, depending on the night and the situation. This matchup, you probably don't need Looney as much, but he's definitely versatile enough where he can probably keep up there and keep up with Watford.
Tim, do you think Aaron Holiday plays in a blowout? I don't think so. I'm assuming he starts. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Why would he?
Yeah.
I would.
Why wouldn't he?
I think he would though, because you think that because I think Aaron Holiday's going to get minutes, but I think that but Payton might still be higher on the depth chart, don't you think? Or no?
I think Elf would be the guy that mops up.
Okay.
I mean, if this game gets out of hand, I think it's Elf.
Okay.
But I'm guessing. I don't have tons of confidence in that take.
Let's see a few more questions from chat. Who was my mush play of the night? Well, I mushed Josh Giddey. I don't know if that's me copping out, but I'm not playing Josh Giddey. He's not going to get a triple-double tonight. Andre, your favorite cheap play, any position for tournaments on FanDuel? Do you have a favorite one? Just for tournaments, whatever reason. I don't know. There's no position specified, but just your favorite cheapie.
I mean, I Rajon Rondo, Gary Payton. those are the guys I'm really like getting as far as cheapie guys. But if you want to go like a mid-range play, like in the 5K range, I love getting to a guy like we mentioned earlier in the show, LaMarcus Aldridge at 5'5", when no one's probably going to play him at all. I think he just has a lot of upside here on this slate. You can pair him even with Love and be fine and go about your business.
Tim Flores Mark wants to know if you like some Dante DiVincenzo at 4.3K on DK. Any interest?
No, I'm staying away from all those depth pieces.
He did close last game. Like they did trade for him, and I think he's kind of decent.
But isn't Lamb back? And there's somebody else who's back.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't waste the roster spot on him.
Fair enough. Andre, we have a tournament strategy question here. Can you rank your top 3 game stacks for tournaments, and like how many pieces per game? And I think it sort of varies. Like, is it 1-1, 2-1, 2-2? We don't talk about it enough, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to do so. But if you can do it quickly, as far as your favorite 3 games to stack, and like when you say a stack, is 1-1 a stack? Is 2-1 a stack? What constitutes a stack? And it also kind of depends how much salary you're probably delegating as well.
Yeah, 1-1 is considered a stack, but I preferably, like, for a game stack, I'm just going to say like 2-1, 2-2, 3-1. Those are game stacks I would say is more what I would go with. The top 3 I recommend games I like: Atlanta, Chicago, Memphis, Minnesota. And it's tough because to me, the third one is a toss up between Denver, Sacramento, and Portland, Golden State, in my opinion. I just don't know which one I want to lean more towards right now. I'm thinking more so going with the Denver, Sacramento, because it's going to be lesser owned compared to the pieces in Golden State, Portland, as far as more so on the Portland side. But it just really just depends on how every whole lineups are looking.
You got anything different than that, Tim? Another game that you want to throw or add to the conversation?
No, I mean, my favorite, if I was making 150, my favorite game stack would be the Grizzlies T-Wolves. That's my favorite game.
We don't really. Well, Slammer wants to know Celtics are 8.5 point favorites. How do we feel about that? Also, is it crazy to take the 10 points with OKC? Well, Andre, you're going to the game. Are you wagering American dollars? Celtics minus 8.5, or OKC getting 10, or any? You're in a legal state to wager. You have any wagers you like tonight?
Oh, well, I do. I did money lines earlier for this. I did more so the prop stuff, honestly. But I would just take the money lines and do a parlay with these teams. You can take the 8 if you can take the 8. I think that's comfortable, or 10. I think those are both fine.
All righty, we got to step aside and make way for Crunch Time, the premium show on Rotogrinders.com. You guys, again, one more time, you can get a premium for half off the next 2 months. Go ahead and check that out. All the sports, essentially anything you could think of, with the exception of NASCAR, which is a la carte. We do have to step aside and get out of here. Tim, good first show. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to Grinders Live. Andre, good as always. Enjoy the game tonight. Producer Steve all over it. Thanks, chat, for supplying those questions. Appreciate y'all watching us on YouTube as well. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe, turn on notifications. That was basketball. That was Andre, Tim, producer Steve. I was Dean. We're out of here. Out.